Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Tuesday, August 31st, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or listening through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Michael and Jeannie Rice on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that page and click on the link in the upper left-hand corner that says Start Here, it'll take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? That chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and a tool I've been using to turn any negative emotional experience into part of the infallible guidance system that we've all been given. You can also download the actual worksheet itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click on it, download it, print it off, copy it, and use it as often as you'd like. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows like this one where people have been stepped through that worksheet process. And those audio files can serve as a tutorial. So if you don't have the time to call us on the Internet show and ask to be stepped through a worksheet yourself, or if you don't want to put your issues out there openly, you can listen to other people who have, and the recordings are available absolutely free in the archives. And a number of special shows highlighting that have been curated out by Jeannie Rice on that page if you click on the link to the MP3 files, and they can basically become your tutorial for how to use these tools to good effect in your life. You can also go to your app store and type in the 3 words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness and get access to a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we hope people do that soon and often, because that frequently leads them to have questions or comments or testimonials. And if you have that, you can call us at 563-999-3581 and press 1. And it'll put a little question mark by your phone number so I can announce you by your area code. Or alternately, you could send me an email at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@whyagain.org, whyagain.org. We're also doing the Course in Miracles Workbook Lessons this year. Today is the 243rd day of the year, and the workbook lesson today reads, Today I will judge nothing that occurs. The commentary reads, I will be honest with myself today. I will not think that I already know what must remain beyond my present grasp. I will not think that I understand the whole from its bits, the bits of perception that I can see. Today I recognize that this is so, and I am so relieved of the judgments that I cannot make. Thus do I free myself and free what I look upon to be in peace as the Creator created us. So, Creator, today I leave creation free to be itself. What a concept, right? 13.84 billion years of life progressing from what our scientists tell us was the Big Bang, resulting in the events that you see today. And your conscious logical mind has been trained to look at that and think it knows better than the flow of life and creation. So today, I'm going to leave creation free to be itself. I'm going to honor all of its parts And I'm one of those. We are all one because each part contains the memory of creation, the creative force of life, the intelligence of creation, and truth must shine in all of us as one. So that's the workbook lesson, and Pam Grout's Course in Miracles experiment lesson titled 243 is named, Houston, there is no problem. Quotes Marcus Aurelius as saying, a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. Amor fati. This is what Pam writes. This two-word Latin phrase helps me cope with last year's massive rip in my understanding of the universe. Pam writes, losing your only child is brutal terrain. I'm often tormented with overwhelming emotions. Some days I stay in bed long after the sun rises. Occasionally, I question whether life is still worth living. Tough to admit, as the writer who regularly blogged about being the luckiest person on the planet. So, if I'm going to love my fate no matter what, as amor fati means, I have no choice but to rely on the Course, and it promises that A, this body, as material world, is a mental construct, and B, the only problem I could ever have is one of perception, and C, I have the power to control my thoughts. So, I draw strength from Viktor Frankl, who found meaning even though the rest of his family perished during the Holocaust. I remind myself that I got to spend 25 years with this incredible being of light and love. I was a 37-year-old singleton with no real prospects in sight when she chose to hang out with me. Literally, she was a life-changing gift, the most amazing, the most compassionate, the wisest person I ever met. And I turn all of that over to the Holy Spirit, who reminds me, if it's not wholly joyous, it is not God's will. If it's not wholly joyous, it involves some decision I erroneously made. Because it was me who made the less than joyous decision, see number 1, and because this decision was never forced on me, see number 2, I can change it at any time. Number 4, I just have to go back to the point where I made the erroneous decision and ask the Holy Spirit to decide instead. I repeat, I don't have to fix anything. Number 5, over and over, the Course assures me that Taz now belongs to the infinite. Taz is her daughter's name. And that someday soon, I will too. You'll spend eternity with Taz, the Course says. In fact, you're in eternity with her now once you change your perception. So, the Holy Spirit reminds me that number 1, if it's not wholly joyous, it's not God's will. Number 2, if it's not wholly joyous, it involves some decision that I erroneously made. And number 3, because it was me who made the less than joyous decision, see number 1, and because this decision was never forced on me, see number 2, I can change it at any time. Number 4, I just have to go back to the point in time where I made the erroneous decision and ask the Holy Spirit to decide instead. I repeat, I don't have to fix anything. And number 5, over and over again, the Course assures me that my daughter now belongs to the infinite and that someday I will too. So what's being referred to there is one of the lines that I quote from the Course quite often because it was so powerful for me. I need only return to my original error in thought in order for all the negative effects of that error in thought to be wiped away, to be corrected. There's nothing for me to do except see the errors in thought that I use to create my pain and suffering. So that's our Course in Miracles Workbook Lesson and the commentary from Pam Grout. And today is a Tuesday, so we will have a support group tonight available from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central Time. All the information about how to join us there, absolutely free if you so desire, is at mindshiftersacademy.org website. And I'm not quite sure who, but I believe it was Ellen who called in the show and suggested Richard Moss as an author and somebody for me to contact. And he wrote books like The Mandala of Being and Inside Out Healing. And so it's been a while back and forth reaching out to different resources, but he finally did respond today and has agreed to be interviewed. So we're going to have a conversation on the 15th to pin down when we might do the actual interview. But the word I got is that he's teaching in Europe right now and that he will get back to me when he's back in town. And then the next word I got was from him over in Europe saying, yep, I'm ready, I'm willing to do this, but I'm not back in town until the 13th. So thank you for that, and that leads me to the reminder that we're always willing to entertain your suggestions for book titles or authors or podcasts that you find valuable and are in alignment with this work, or you find them extremely valuable and they're not in alignment with this work. We will do our best to reach out to those people, read those books, and see if we can't schedule an interview. Ellen, welcome.
Hi, Dr. Tim. The first thing I just want to mention is that I'm hearing a lot of static on the call. I don't know if you're hearing that or if anyone else is hearing it, but I thought I would call in and say that because I am definitely hearing a lot of static.
Okay. Well, I'm not hearing it, but Susan's on the call. Let's see if she's hearing it. Because if it's me, then I should hang up and call in again.
Right.
Susan,
yeah.
are you hearing a lot of static?
None
Are you able
at all.
to respond?
Okay,
yep. So then it must be, yes.
So, Susan, if you're not hearing it, it must be Ellen's line.
Right. Okay.
So that's
maybe.
The first
yeah.
thing.
No. It's okay. Good.
So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call back in. Just the way.
All right.
It really bothers them. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.
So we have. I was just saying that we extend the invitation for you to let us know about work that you know of that's powerful for you, or authors that you read that you feel are life-changing or entertaining, and we will do what we can to, in this case, that's the royal we. I don't have a team doing this, but I will reach out to people. I will see if they're willing to be interviewed. I will do what I can to at least read one of their books if they have, one of these authors that's quite prolific, and that in that way you can help us expand our work and our understanding of the work on the Mind Shifters radio show and on the On Your Mind podcast. Yesterday we had the On Your Mind podcast replay that I played here on Mind Shifters of Robert Whitaker, and I wanted to do that because I had the hope of expanding the exposure to that interview. It is available on the On Your Mind podcast through the journeysdream.org website, and now it's also available in the archives of the Mind Shifters radio show. So, Ellen, you're back on?
Yes,
Thoughts,
I
comments,
am.
reactions?
Well, I'm excited that you're going to get to interview Richard Moss. And yeah, I definitely want to know where I'll be able to listen to that once you do it. I'm actually reading a second book of his right now, and it's no longer in print. I had to buy a used copy, which is no issue. But it's so completely different from the first book I read by him, and I thought that the Inside Out Healing, which was written, I think, quite a few years later than the one I'm reading now, which is called The Second Miracle. I always think, I should read the latest work of someone. But honestly, I'm really getting a lot out of now this second book called The Second Miracle. And I really love he describes all the different techniques that he uses in like group sessions to kind of like open people up. And he does a lot of like activities that lead people into spontaneous expression. And and he talks a lot about that in this book I'm reading now. And I just have found him to be a really wonderful teacher for me. And so I'm glad that you were able to get in touch with him. And did you happen to read any of his work?
I have one or two of them that I have just cracked, and now that he's going to agree to this, I will be trying to get through. I think the one that you were referring to is I lost my webpage for that. Books is the Transforming Your Life Through the Power of Presence.
Yes.
Right?
The Inside Out.
And then the other one that I think that was written within a year or so of that is Discovering the Power of Presence, the Mandala of Being, subtitled Discovering the Power of Awareness. So I'm going to try to, dig into both of those. Probably won't finish both of them before I get to hook up with him on the 15th. But so, not yet, but I'm working on it.
Okay. Well, I like the way the one I'm reading now, which, like I said, is called The Second Miracle, and what he says are the first miracle is actually the emergence of the ego, and the second miracle is the emergence of our true self once the ego has become fully developed. And I like that he refers to the emergence of the ego as a miracle, because so many people want to, don't look at it that way. But of course, it's what has to happen in order for us to experience this reality. And there's, no getting rid of it. I mean, we need the ego in order to exist in this reality. It's being just using that as a vehicle for the expression of, the true self. And it's so interesting because everything that I've been reading lately or listening to lately it's all been kind of like the same theme. And I haven't watched this video yet, but I got a link to a video in an email yesterday. It's called God's Eternal Dilemma, and this is a video by Leonard Jacobson, whose main teaching is about being in the present moment, and then learning how to be present, and then which he says is very, very simple. Just be present with something that's present with you, but then the main teaching is all around learning how the ego pulls us out of presence, and doing all that healing work and all that. But anyway, this particular the intro to this video I thought was really interesting, he says that the eternal dilemma of God is that one cannot know itself, because to know oneself involves both the knower and the known. He describes, you're saying Leonard describes how God exists eternally as eternal isness, and yet God does not know that God exists. To resolve this eternal dilemma, there would have to be a shift from oneness into duality. We are that part of God, journeying through time and separation, ultimately to return to oneness. It is in our return to oneness that God's eternal dilemma is resolved. And I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, that is a very well-known, some would call it an advanced spiritual thought process or dilemma, but it's the root of how, when some people will come at these things from the perspective of religions, right, wrong, good, bad, guilt, shame, go from there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the actuality of it goes beyond anything that our words can describe. So if anything about what Ellen just read resonates, any kind of discomfort in you, do a worksheet process on it. Do some breath work, do an EFT tapping session, do the Michael Rice worksheet, do the Byron Katie questioning worksheet to dismantle your upset, because there's nothing outside of you that's ever causing your upset. These are just words. These are just thoughts. And these words and thoughts can't even begin, not even begin to explain or express the truth of our existence. So unless you're a person who just really likes to fight and argue and decide who's right and who's wrong, then, if you are, then go ahead, by all means, engage in that game. But unless you like that, notice if you get triggered to any kind of resistance or upset, and our invitation is to use the tools to dismantle it. Because there isn't anything here but words, and words are not the thing. And words don't tell you what's right or wrong. Right? Nothing is either right or wrong, as Shakespeare would say, but thinking makes it so. So if you label it wrong and bad, that's what it'll be for you. If you label it, something to be grateful and appreciative for, that's what it will be for you.
And that's why I love today's ACIM lesson so much, because all of those are just judgments to one side or the other side.
Yeah, it's the essence of, and when I understand that I am in pain or fear or sadness, I have one of those negative emotional states in my conscious awareness, all I have to do, according to this lesson and Course in Miracles, is return to the original error in thought. And all the negative effects from that will be dissolved. They'll be wiped away. Which means I need to be willing to step out of my obsession with trying to be right. I need to cancel my need to be right and ask to be shown something else. And I need to be willing to leave creation to be free to be itself, as the lesson says.
Yeah.
So, thank you for that. Any other comments, questions, answers, or soliloquies you want to add to the show today?
Yeah, I just want to mention that, everything lately for me has been pointing towards, the body and body consciousness, and, and I'm sure this isn't really meant by A Course in Miracles, but, there's so much, especially in that last section with the lessons where, the main theme was I'm not a body, I am free, which for me, it would tend to make me like try and forget about the body. And so I found this so interesting that everything for me lately has been pointing towards the body. And even something I heard Leonard Jacobson say, he's doing like a Monday live YouTube every Monday evening, and the one I listened to this week, he said something, I have no idea if this is true or not, but I just thought, wow, that's interesting. I never heard anyone say this before. But he said, because his whole teaching is, he says, when you're in the present moment, you are not in your mind. Like all stop, when you're truly present, there is never a thought in your mind. And he says, when you are off in the mind, which means you're not present, he said, your body actually feels abandoned. So I thought that was interesting. And like I said, I have no idea if that's true, but it made me really even, I guess it motivated me even more to really be present with the body. And it also reminded me this morning about, I think I've heard you mention before, A Course of Love.
Yes.
I've read a couple of times. And what I love so much about that particular book is that he doesn't, in that teaching, he doesn't like try and negate the body, which it almost feels to me like that's what, and I don't know if that's really the intention, but that's kind of what it feels to me in A Course in Miracles. And I know it is all about changing the mind, but there's nothing about like body consciousness and being, present in the body, as, it talks about in A Course of Love, and the integration that needs to take place between like the personal self and the impersonal self. And I'm actually reading, I'm reading a couple things simultaneously, but one of the books I'm reading right now, which I'm finding absolutely fascinating, and this was another one, it was just suddenly I just like led to this. It's called The Mind of the Cells. And it's about, I don't know if you've ever heard of Satprem or Mother or Sri Aurobindo and the work that they were doing.
No.
Okay. This is something that was introduced to me years ago, and it was started, I want to say, in the 50s by Sri Aurobindo, where he claimed that, he started experimenting with actually diving deep down into the body until he got into the consciousness of the cells of the body. And he had a partner at the time that she's just always referred to as Mother. And then the guy's books that I've been reading, the one I'm reading now, is Satprem, and he became like her confidant. And so I don't know that much. I did read a book about Sri Aurobindo years ago, and I just remember being fascinated by it. But now the book I'm reading, The Mind of the Cells, is about the work that Mother did. It's like I think he published like 13 volumes of all of her logs of her experimentation with this, but there's a lot of it in this book. And it's absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating, where she goes through like all the different layers of mind, like the intellectual mind, and then the emotional mind, and then the mind of the senses, and then until she gets down into the physical mind that's within the cells of our bodies. And basically what this is all about, what they're looking for, is a new way for us to be able to live and be on the earth. They're looking for the next evolutionary leap, similar to like kind of leap that happened when like fish suddenly, the water was drying up, and they couldn't have the water to breathe anymore, so they had to find a new way to breathe on land. And so they, amphibians.
So the next, let me just interrupt, because what my brain is doing with this is saying the next evolutionary leap is really far away from where most of us are these days, where we get triggered to upset because the car won't start, or our neighbor's playing their music too loudly, or we think our friend is too loud when she eats with her mouth open or whatever. And so I'm thinking more in terms of what we do here is about the practical tools that we can use. And based on what you were just saying about the body, it put me in mind of something I was listening to this morning through the Tell Me Something True podcast with Laura McGowan. And it's in her number 10 podcast with Jim Zartman. And he talks about 4 types of relational energy. And even in that podcast, I would say probably for this purposes of this audience or this type of discussion, I'd say skip the first 24 minutes of that podcast. And then you get into the practical stuff, like where he's talking about the energy that we take into relationships. We take an energy that is for something, trying to fix something, an energy that is at something, trying to attack something, or an energy of avoidance. And then it came to him one day when he was teaching about those are the kinds of energies they talk about in the Enneagram that has these 9 different personalities in a personality structure. And it came to him one day when he was presenting on it to talk about energy with, where you're in the moment with the person, connected with them, and headed in the same direction. So the image is when you have for or at energy, you're like face to face, and one of you is trying to change the other, or be very focused on getting something accomplished. And then when you've got avoidance energy, it's like the 2 people standing back to back, moving away from each other. And the with energy would be represented in that imagery with 2 people standing side by side, maybe holding hands, faced in the same direction. But the thing that made me think about that when you were talking is that he was talking about how with the Enneagram, so much of it is being aware of the energy that you experience in the physical body, and getting the input from that, getting educated, kind of reconditioned, because so many of us in our cultural conditioning have been taught to ignore the fact that you've got a headache, sit up in class and just take notes and pass the test, and hold your bladder until it's time for recess, and then you go to the bathroom. Ignore those signals from the body. Whereas the Enneagram and this set of approaches is saying, look, this is all good information. Instead of ignoring it, let's learn to use it as feedback, as a part of our decision-making process. And then, of course, if you're talking about Dr. Rice's work, it's if I have anything that's less than that loving, compassionate, gratitude, expressive energy, I can use it best as an alarm system to tell me that my interpretation of life is off the mark, that my focus is too narrow and myopic, that the interpretation I've chosen for what it means that this or that is happening in my life is not conducive to seeing the whole picture, and not conducive to growth and connection and cooperation and collaboration. It's going to be about competition or avoidance or, proving I'm right at the expense of others being wrong. And if I can just start to use more of the energies that are available to me as I inhabit the body, as information about what's going on inside me, right or wrong, on target or off target, I can accelerate my growth and progress. I can improve my relationships. I can learn sooner and sooner when it's important for me to step into the use of a tool rather than, letting my conscious logical mind try to dictate what I should do. or trying to solve the problem before I've actually resolved it. I mean, before I've actually identified what are the factors contributing to it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is great intelligence within the body, but most of us use the body as a means to an end of all kinds of things, right? We don't actually just spend time with the body, getting in touch with what's there. And the whole practice of like being present, like putting your attention on the body is, to me, I think it's the easiest way to be present and to stay present, just following your breath or whatever. I used to do a form of meditation that was based on movement, and you just always put your attention on the part that was moving. And in order to, because if you're in the present, you're not in the mind. So, and the only way that things can really go wrong, you get disconnected from the truth of who you are, is when you're in the mind. So this whole practice of noticing and, putting your attention on what we're here with, like every day, no matter where we go, like we're with the body, right? So, yes, we are not a body, but we're with a body. And we can use that body not as a means to an end, but as a means in itself, I think, to become more aware, to expand our consciousness, and to stay connected to the truth of who we are. I mean, as another thing, like I love that Leonard Jacobson says all the time, he says, the truth, God, whatever you want to call it, love, is only in the present. Like, so if you realize that I'm just living my life out in my mind, well, but yet, I'm seeking God, well, that's not going to work, and so it's such a simple thing, but it's, I think the challenge for me and probably a lot of people is to remain in the present. So, but I think the more you practice that.
And I think that it's important to recognize that we were conditioned out of it, right? That when we were children, we were very aware of the energies that are the physical, that are, as we say, of the body. And we were conditioned out of it. And if you take somebody like G.P. Walsh in his inner reconciliation work, if you watch him work with people, he asks them, so what are you feeling? Where are you feeling it? And he's gone so far as to rename or to give special names to the energies associated with the different chakras so that they seem more palatable for people, understandable to people. So, I've got the nymph, and I've got the defender, and he's got these various names, but the idea is to just tune in and feel where is the energy and what does that energy feel like. So he's not asking people, so what do you think about that, and what's your thought about that, and what do you think you should do about that? He's simply in his invite or inquire, invite, and integrate three-step process. It's this cycle of being with the energies and letting them teach you. And it's much more about just what you're talking about, getting, undoing the conditioning that has me ignoring the physical and training myself to tap into the awareness of these energies and use them as input. And then eventually my guidance evolves from that. And my guidance is far more on target when it includes all these various energies that we've been conditioned to ignore or to think they're, irrelevant.
Right. And I remember the very first time I read somewhere that God exists within every cell of your body, that was new to me. And I just thought, whoa. And I just closed the book And I went there thinking, wow, really? And the next thing I knew, I had that experience that's described as the peace that passeth all understanding. And it lasted about 24 hours. There was not a thing that could disturb me in any way. There was this core, like this rock. I felt like this rock inside of me. That was just like, I was like, nothing could pull me from this rock of certainty and safety and surety. I mean, it was the most wonderful thing. And I had forgotten completely all about that. And all of a sudden, like I said, everything's been pointing the body. Like, don't forget about the body, And so I just think it's so important that, yes, we are not a body. And so I just wanted to bring that up, too, because with the Course in Miracles, because I know when I first started studying that, I was like, oh, I need to forget about the body. That's what I thought one of the messages was. And but then when I read A Course of Love, I was like, well, that's not what this is saying at all. And I was kind of relieved. And so, yeah, I don't know what your take is.
Notice what you read into it when you listen to the Course in Miracles say, you're not a body. Right?
Yeah.
That's just a simple statement. And so one person could hear that and say, this is trying to wake me up to the fact that I'm much more than just the body. And somebody else might hear that and say, this book is trying to tell me that my body is irrelevant or garbage or doesn't exist at all. And somebody else might read it and pick something in between. So, notice in all of these teachings, this is one of the things we used to talk about regularly in the Mind Shifter support group, especially if we got somebody in new and we're going to be listening to one of Dr. Michael Rice's, an hour of one of his videos. We'd say, look, let's pay attention. There are 6 or 8 or 15 of us in the room. We're going to be putting something on the screen, and as we get together after this hour presentation and we discuss it around the table, just notice how many different impressions, interpretations, and reactions we get when we think we were all looking at the same thing. Right? But the truth is, I don't get to see the world outside of me. I get to see the pictures and interpretations and responses that my conscious mind generates. So I'm literally not watching the same thing on the screen that everybody else is watching. And so, when you get that and you say, well, this is what the Course in Miracles says, understand that I might read the words verbatim as they are, and yet I might give them a meaning that is radically different than, every other person or most of the other people who read that book.
Yeah,
so
and I can see.
Take from it what works for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can see how I would interpret it as, don't pay attention to the body. Because, I had so many experiences as a child where touch, when my body was touched, it was a very painful thing. So to be in the body as a child was very painful for me. And so I could see how, because of that conditioning, that I would say, I can just forget about the body. That's what this is teaching. But yeah, you're right. It was just my interpretation. So that's probably why everything now is telling me don't forget about the body. Because there's great intelligence. I mean, and this morning I was just kind of seeing I think it's in the Impersonal Life. He describes each of us as like a cell in his body, and that the different like countries in the world might each country might represent like a different organ, like in the body of God. And I was just seeing like these kind of like nesting dolls, but just with globes, like with the earth, the planetary body of God, and where each of us, are an inherent part of that, and then, going out from there, to the solar body of God, and then to the galactic body of God, where each solar system would be like an organ, and on out to the universal, and just seeing how it's all one. It's just like, how far out are you aware? Are you aware of just the planet? Are you aware of the solar system, the galaxy, the whole universe? And just seeing how this expansion, and it goes, all directions. It's not just, trying to get to some high state of bliss. It's also going down as deeply as you go. It's in all directions. So to sit in meditation and transcend the body and the whole physical plane, that to me, isn't really the answer, because we're here. So we need to also go deep.
Well, when you say we need to, I would just, watch your words. No, we don't need to. And you have the freedom to not go. And what you choose, or you have the liberty to not go there, and then what you choose is part of what creates your experience. And that's what we're trying to help people understand here. What we choose is, and what we choose to focus our awareness upon, becomes that which creates our experience of life. So we don't need to go deep, and we can stay shallow, and we can choose anywhere in between. And as we do, that's what creates our experience of life. It isn't that life is bad or wrong or good, or it's just life is life. And when we jump into the interpretation of it, then we're doing that thing they called, eating from the tree of good and evil, right? Then we're moving into the level of judgment. And when we do that, we create a different kind of an experience than when we stay in allowance and acceptance and surrender, which are the, 3 of the 5 keys to the kingdom that are listed in the way of mastery. You want to get to where you say you want to be. If you want to have a more loving, expansive experience of life, get on God's team. How do you do that? You learn to identify this energy of desire, this really powerful but ultimately subtle energy that flows through you all the time. It's basically the stuff you've been trained to ignore. It's not about obsession or craving. It's not about passion. It's this very subtle energy of creation. And if you don't like the word desire, use this phrase: the energy of creation that wants to express uniquely through you in this moment. And when you learn to tap into that, now you're on the Creator's team. The next thing is, after desire, you move into intention. What's intention? Intention is my ability that I have to work with to keep my intention focused on being in alignment with that energy of desire throughout the day. And the more I do that, the more I feel these energies and these urges and impulses about how the creative energy wants to express uniquely through me in the moment, then I need to step into allowance. What's allowance? Allowance is my willingness to catch the early warning signs of my resistance. I either want to push away this experience of life and the creative flow, or I want to grab onto this, and when I catch that resistance, I want to release it. And that's how I move more and more into allowance. And then the next step, the next key is surrender. What is that? I need to surrender my need to be right. I need to surrender to be taught. I need to ask on a regular basis to be taught what's mine to do here. How can I be a blessing to myself and others? How can I learn about life in this moment? So I have the energy of desire flowing through me that I learn to tune into. I keep my intention focused on being aligned with that because that aligns me with what creation wants to express through me in the moment, moment to moment, day to day. Then I step into allowance, which is that vigilance for the tension or the resistance. And I drop the resistance as soon as I can, which puts me back in that allowance and acceptance. Then I surrender to be taught. I ask to be taught. How can life teach me more about itself in this moment? And then it says, the more I do that, the better my life is going to get. My life is going to get so much better, I'm going to be sorely tempted to think, oh, what a good boy am I. Look at what I'm manifesting. Look what I've called into my life. Look how powerful I am. I'm going to keep a little bit of this credit for myself. And because that's a trap, the fifth key to the kingdom is humility. To understand, I don't know who created me. I don't know when I was created. I am not the ultimate energy of creation. I didn't originate the energy of creation. I've been given dominion over a little nozzle of it that we might call my mind energy. And whatever I focus that on is going to bring more of that into my life. But I am not the originator of that mind energy. I didn't create the universe itself. And I don't have, with this perceptual system that's so focused on the five senses, I don't have access to even the tiniest fraction of 1% of what's going on in any given moment. So it's unweaning arrogance to think I know what should be happening. So when I step into that humility and I see that I'm just the same as anybody else, and in that ancient Aramaic sense, I look for the highest and best in everyone and everything around me, and then I choose to cooperate only with that, that keeps the whole system open and flowing. And what evolves from that is beyond my comprehension with my conscious logical mind. And there aren't any words for it.
So that's from the Way of Mastery?
Yeah, that's lesson 5 from the Way of Mastery, with a little Dr. Tim spin on it.
Yeah, I love that. That's a very succinct teaching. And I know in personal life, God describes or he says that his will on this plane is what we call desire. And it's like you said, it's not the desire of like I have craving something.
Yeah.
It's that
Exactly. In the Way of Mastery, they spend the lesson before that on just that. What is this desire thing? And it's almost identical to what you'll find in The Impersonal Life by Joseph S. Benner, where the divine is talking about that energy. It's not about obsession or craving or passion or possession. It's not about preference. It's just this energy of creation that wants to express uniquely through you in each new present moment. And it's there, it's a real thing, and if you learn to tune into it, it's amazing. You know, how if you learn to tune into it and then you're willing to go with that flow, because, you know, the lessons, the exercises they give in the 4th lesson of the Way of Mastery are about tuning into it and understanding in each of those exercises that you don't need to act on any of these as you become aware of a desire to do this or that. It's awareness of the creative flow. And as soon as you feel like, oh, but now I have to go do this, well, that's probably misguided, right? There is that now I have to. Whereas if you are aligned and attuned to that energy, it's so subtle. It's very powerful, but it's so subtle that when you're aligned with it, you're not thinking about I have to this or that. You just act. Mm-hmm. And the truth of life is acting on you, and you're open in response, open through that loving filter of Rachma, where you see actually everything as it is rather than through the filters of fear and hostility. And your action as a response is in immediate concert and in the flow of the creative force that's in, through, as, and around you in that moment. So you don't have to, it's like these people that are, at an accident scene and they just act. And afterwards people are saying, well, geez, how did you do that? Or how did you know that? And they say, I don't know. It was in the flow.
Yeah. It's
so that's something that if we learn to dismantle the conditioning we have that says we've got to figure it out and be right and use the conscious logical mind for all of that, that can happen all day, every day, being in that flow state.
Yeah. I think about...
So we're down to our last minute. So let me ask you to hold that thought, and thank you so much for your comments, questions, and suggestion for Dr. Ross, and I'll let you know when that interview gets scheduled. And I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Rice.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. Great discussion. And I think I got most of the books and the chapters and things. So thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Have a great show.